Hey folks, Terry here. We're talking Trump Biden again. Well, as Biden continues to hide, continues to tell us we don't need to hear what he thinks about the Supreme Court, whether or not he wants to pack the Supreme Court, whether or not he would support the Democrats' plans to end the filibuster. We know he would support them. How do we know that? Because he's already told us it's the Democrat Party. It's the party that's leading the way here. And they've told us loud and clear they want to pack the court. They don't agree that Trump had the authority to nominate Amy Coney Barrett. Biden said that this is illegitimate. Well, obviously, they don't understand the Constitution. The president has the authority to nominate, and the Senate has the authority to advise and consent. And this year, unlike in 2016, the president and the senator are of the same party. So the Senate isn't going to check the president. They're going to advise and consent, and they're going ahead with that process. In 2016, after the Senate had been put in control of the Republicans in opposition to the president, they chose to wait for the election and let the people decide. Let the court be part of the election. This year, the Democrats are crying that this is hypocritical. It's not hypocritical. It's clear. The Senate this year is in control of the Republicans. They actually increased control of the Senate in the 2018 election, the most recent election. In the most recent presidential election, Trump was elected president. So the president nominates, the Senate advises and consents. And they're moving ahead. And the Democrats are crying. And of course, they're complaining because Amy Coney Barrett is a Catholic, a practicing Catholic. Unlike Joe Biden, who runs ads that he's a Catholic when he's pro-abortion up until the moment of birth, which is barbaric. Any of you people out there who are values voters, how you could vote against Donald Trump in this election is amazing to me. I get that Donald Trump is an abrasive individual. I get that his tweets can drive you crazy, but his policies, as opposed to the policies of these far left Democrats, are fantastic. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the courts. Think back 4 years ago. It was Clinton and Trump. Who would the three Supreme Court nominees have been? Who would the judges on the Supreme Court have been if Hillary Clinton had been president? If you're a values voter, if you're a religious voter, if you're a morals voter, you know that the judges that Hillary Clinton would have selected would have been a nightmare. Neil Gorsuch was an outstanding pick, and yet this Democrat Party, these leaders from the Democrat Party, filibustered, didn't even want to allow him a hearing. They're talking about they didn't want Garland at the time. They didn't want to allow Neil Gorsuch a hearing. Then Brett Kavanaugh, they attacked him with crazy, wild lies. That's these same Democrats. That's Chuck Schumer, that's Nancy Pelosi, and that's, yes, Joe Biden, because he's the leader, even though he's only half there. And we all know he's only half there. If you haven't watched enough video clips, just 2 days ago, he talked about how he was running for the Senate. He also talked about some guy, you know, that senator, governor that might have been a Mormon. He couldn't remember who Mitt Romney was. So look at the courts. Look at what Trump has done in the courts if you're talking about policies. Forget about individuals here. Forget about personalities. Look at policies. Trump's policies far outshine the policies of the Democrat Party because the Democrat Party is going far, far left. And they are going socialist. And part of that is they want to take God out of our society. Trump's policies are pro-God, pro-America, pro-religious liberty, pro-freedom. The Democrats, they're anti-God. They're anti-America. They're against religious liberty. And they're against freedom. Look at what they're doing in the country, supporting these protests, these riots. And they barely say a word about a riot. We're talking about arson. We're talking about assaults. We're talking about murders. And they don't have a word to say. So we know right off the bat, judges, Trump has been fantastic. And he's done that at the appellate level too. And I hear these Republicans, oh, I couldn't support Trump. I'm a lifelong Republican. I believe in Republican values, but I can't support Trump. Really? You can't support his position on judges? You can't support his position on abortion, on religious liberty, or on school choice? You can't support President Trump's position with the military? Every time there's been a Democrat president, Clinton and Obama, they deplete the military. They defund the military, just like they want to do with the police. They defund the military. The military was left gutted, and Trump came back and has increased funding to the military. He actually gave the military the biggest pay raise that they've had, going back over the last 10 years. And then, of course, the economy. If you're a Republican, or if you're a conservative, or if you're a middle-class voter, Trump was great for the economy. What were Biden and Obama? I remember it was stagnant. Oh, it's the new norm. We're not going to have manufacturing jobs. And trade and immigration. Trump's been fantastic with his trade deals. He's done what everybody said should be done. And then the Democrats, who originally spoke the same way, then were against it once Trump did it. Same goes for immigration. Democrats spoke against immigration, spoke in favor of building the wall, voted in favor of building the wall. Now Trump wanted to do it. It's a far right-wing policy. It's not a far right-wing policy. 80 senators voted to build a wall in 2006 because they knew we needed a wall for immigration. They knew we needed it to stop terrorists from coming through the border. So let's talk about the economy. As I said, it was stagnant. It was the worst post-recession growth we had in over a half century. Hillary ran on the Obama plan, talked about the new norm, and again, talked about manufacturing jobs are never going to come back, just can't happen. Then what? Oh yeah, Trump ran, he's going to bring them back. What's he going to do? Wave his magic wand? You know what he did? He waved his magic wand. Manufacturing jobs came back. The other thing he did is he reversed the Obama-Biden policies. He cut the regulations on businesses. He cut taxes for everybody, for businesses and for all the middle-class voters. What does Biden say he's going to do? He's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts on day one. Well, let me tell you, that is a tax increase if you repeal the tax cuts that Trump initiated. So that's a tax increase. Yet Biden says at the same time, well, I'm not going to raise anybody's taxes. He is going to raise taxes. Anybody under $400,000, he says. If you're going to repeal the Trump tax cuts, you're going to raise people's taxes. You're going to raise most taxpayers' taxes. We had the best jobs numbers under Trump, best unemployment numbers, best employment numbers, best poverty numbers, best food stamp numbers. People of all backgrounds did better. Median income rose. Take-home pay rose. Quality of life rose. Even today, after the coronavirus has been with us for 9 months, ask yourself if you're better off today than you were 4 years ago. Think the answer is yes. And as Joe Biden said just the other day, if you're better off today than you were 4 years ago, vote for Trump. Let's talk about fracking. Joe Biden says, I'm going to do away with all fracking. I'm going to do away with all fossil fuels. They ask him repeatedly, they ask him about the Green New Deal. Yes, I'm in with it all through the primary. Now he's running against Trump. Oh no, I'm in favor of fracking. I wonder if he thinks he needs to win Pennsylvania, so he has to tell him I'm in favor of fracking. We know he's against fracking, and we know they want to do away with fossil fuels. And we know what that'll lead to. It'll lead to California and rolling blackouts. It'll also crush our energy industry. It'll crush our economy. It'll crush jobs. And it'll put a damper on the decrease in our carbon footprint that has happened as a result of fracking. We're doing better than all the countries in the Paris Accord with regard to the environment because of fracking. So again, policies. Which guy has the better policies for the middle class? And it's not even a close call. Trump does. It's the better policies on judges. It's the better policies on the economy. How about on religious liberty, on schools, school choice, and on abortion? Well, there's no doubt it's Trump. Trump supports religious liberty, supports school choice, and he is anti-abortion. He's pro-life. He even spoke at the pro-life rally. Biden, he's pro-unlimited, federally funded abortions. He's pro-abortion until the moment of birth. That is barbaric. If you did something like that to an animal, if you did it to a chick that was hatching out of its shell and you crushed it with a hammer or you tore it to pieces, you would get arrested. It's a brutal, violent act. And yet they do that to a baby, and he supports doing that. As do this Democrat Party. They call it, oh yeah, right to choose. Abortion's a horrible issue, and I understand there are many complications and many aspects. But this idea of killing a formed baby well into a developed baby well into the pregnancy is barbaric. I don't even agree with it earlier, but I think when that baby's been developed, is breathing, its heart is beating, and they want to kill the baby, there's something wrong there. That certainly isn't the values. That's not my values. And when I look at the two choices there in the policies, it's not a close call. It's inhumane. Then look at religious liberty. Biden's already said the Little Sisters of the Poor, they want a Supreme Court case. They're allowed to follow their religion. They don't have to go against their values. He will put a law in place to force them to go against their values. Google it, look it up. Big case, Supreme Court ruling. They were allowed to follow their religious values. And Biden says, no, we'll put forth a law to force them to go against their values. Trump's made it clear. Pro-religion, pro-God, pro-school choice. How could the Democrats be against school choice? We have schools that are failing us in the cities, throughout the country, failing us. and they're against school choice. Okay, on the military, again, look at both sides, look at the policies. Obama and Biden, as well as the Democrats, well known for defunding the military. Check again. Look at the defunding that went on under Obama and Biden. Look at the defunding that went on under Clinton. Trump, on the other hand, has rebuilt the military. He's stayed out of wars while drawing hard lines. And he fixed the VA. Again, years and years of bureaucratic nonsense. Trump comes in and he fixes the VA. It's like back in the 80s with the Waldman skating rink in New York City. He came in and fixed it, boom, Central Park. He also secured the largest pay raise in a decade for the military. So again, major, major plus to Trump when you look at the policies. Again, policies, not the personalities. On trade, Biden's produced nothing. Democrats talk a good show. Produce nothing. This is the typical politician issue. Lifelong politicians living large, making a fortune, keeping problems there so they can keep voting on it, keep you voting and supporting them. Produced nothing. What has Trump done? Hard talking Trump, bad talking Trump. He talks bad to our allies. He talks bad to our neighbors. He came in here like a businessman, sometimes like a ruthless businessman. But what did he do? He produced a better trade deal with Mexico. He produced a better trade deal with Canada. He got the EU to make better deals with us. He got Japan to make a better trade deal with us. He got China to make a better trade deal with us, better for us, for American workers. And he just keeps moving, doing. Look at what he did with NATO. Went over to NATO. He told them, you got to put up money. He did talk down to them. And what did they do? They put up more money for the NATO defense. Now we're back to immigration. What's happened with immigration? Here's more Biden double talk. I should say triple talk. This is the guy who, as a senator, along with Senator Obama, Senator Schumer, Senator Clinton, and Senator Feinstein, all voted to build the wall in 2006, when terrorism was still on our minds. And they said, we got to stop crossing our border. They voted to build the wall. I think 81 senators voted to build the wall, and it is U.S. law to build the wall because of that legislation and those votes. The House passed it, the Senate passed it, and the president signed it. Trump comes along and they say, what a crazy idea. Trump came along and he said, let's actually do it. We voted to do it. We made it a law, but let's actually build a wall. And they say, what a crazy right-wing idea. He's a racist. He's a xenophobe. The man's married to an immigrant. It's the way they call him a Nazi. He's a Nazi. His family's Jewish. Daughter, and her husband and his grandchildren. So it's just absurd. Google it, YouTube it. You can see Obama, you can see Clinton, even Bill Clinton, all talking we have to enforce our immigration laws. Now there's the big thing here. We have to enforce our immigration laws. Who makes our laws? The Congress, the House, the Senate, and then the president by signing off. So the laws that Trump is enforcing are laws that have been approved by the Congress. It's a big issue. They harangue Trump because they put children in cages. Remember children in cages? Children in cages comes from cages that the Obama administration built. It's detention for illegal immigrants. Is it a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. We don't want to do that. We also don't want to let them just come into the country and run free, the illegal immigrants with their children, because that's what they're doing. They're coming and they get arrested and let go, and then they never return to court for a hearing. But the Obama administration, the Obama-Biden administration, they built those cages. You never heard a word about it. It's just, again, this is part of, Trump is running for president. He's running against still portions of the Republican Party. He's running against the Democrat Party, and he's running against the media. That's one of the things that is great about Trump. I did not support Trump in 2016, but I will proudly support him this year because his policies are fantastic. Now, I want you to think immigration. 2009, Obama and Biden are in office. They've got 60 votes in the Senate. They probably had 6 or 7 Republican votes that would come with them. And they have the full House and they have the presidency. And they didn't fix immigration. They did not address immigration. Say, oh, but the Republicans stalled Obama everywhere he went. No, time out. They passed healthcare reform with no votes from the Republicans. Why didn't they pass immigration reform when they had 6 or 7 Republicans that would have joined them? Think back, 2009, there were 6 or 7 liberal Republicans that were looking to do immigration reform that would have joined them. Why didn't they pass immigration reform? Because they didn't want that issue to go away. They want to have that issue to beat the Republicans with it because they think it helps them politically. Instead of passing an executive order, which is not the proper way to run a country through laws, you pass a law and then you follow the laws. Trump is following the laws currently on the books, and the Democrats are screaming that he's a madman for doing that. Yet they had an opportunity to change the immigration laws. It could have covered the Dreamers, could have covered the wall, it could have covered other countries and what caps we would have, but they did not do anything on immigration in Congress. Obama said, I'm waiting on Congress. It's Congress's job. They have to do it. I don't have the authority to do it. Congress never did it. Then later in his administration, what did he do? He issued an executive order to delay deporting the Dreamers. And now we're living with that, which the Supreme Court said could be done away with. It's just it has to be done away with following certain procedures. But they could have fixed immigration, and they chose not to. It's crazy. So, again, look at the policies, judges, the economy, the military, immigration, law and order, religious liberty, freedom. It's all on the ballot. Freedom, law and order. The Democrat Party right now have made it clear they are the party of chaos. They are the party of the peaceful rioting protesters. They've made that clear. It's comical that at the debate, Trump got asked a question about white supremacists when they were talking about the violence and the riots going on in the country. The violence and the riots going on in the country come from BLM and Antifa. That's where they're coming from, BLM and Antifa. Trump, by the way, has trying to catch the word here, but has condemned white supremacists, neo-Nazis, probably 20 times over the last 5 years. You can Google that also. YouTube it. I'm not sure Google is the best anymore because they divert you to chosen websites and they're leaning quite left. But Google and YouTube, you'll see plenty of times speeches. the famous Charlottesville speech. In that speech, Trump condemned white supremacists and neo-Nazis. And then he said, however, the people on both sides of this issue about whether or not we should remove statues, there are good people on both sides. That's a factual, correct statement. It's also similar to the statement, the people protesting, some of the people protesting with BLM are good people. The BLM movement is bad. The BLM movement, look that up. Look up their background. They want to do away with the police. Their answer to crime is to do away with the police. That's the Democrat Party's answer to crime. Do away with the police and do away with the prisons. It's like their foreign policy appeasement. Oh, Iran's a bad country. Well, give them everything they want. Ship them a plane load of money in the middle of the night in the dark, and maybe they'll leave us alone. That's been the policy. It's ridiculous for the Democrat Party. Appeasement isn't going to do the job here. Law and order is going to do the job. Obey the law. With the police, they are vested with authority to enforce the law. It means they, unlike citizens, have the authority to use deadly force if necessary. So what does that mean to you? It means if they stop you, you are not allowed to resist. You're not allowed to. It's against the law. You're crazy if you fight them, if they stop you. Deal with them. Take your ticket. Take whatever your issue is from the police. Then go file your complaint. Go to the press. Go to the politicians. Go to a lawyer. File a civil lawsuit. Go to the DA. Go to the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Go to the Internal Affairs Division. There are a lot of places to go file a complaint against the police. But you don't fight with them on the street when, number one, they're the law officers. The government has said they have the authority to enforce the law. And number two, it's potentially deadly to fight with them on the street. And we don't want anybody to die. So don't fight with them. Walk away and then go file your complaints. Trump has said that many times. And that's why he's got the support of law enforcement all over the country. And Biden doesn't. So again, who's the better candidate? It's Trump. Who's the better personality? All right, maybe it's not Trump. Maybe the better personality is Biden. He sounds softer. He sounds like Uncle Joe. He does. But he's creepy Uncle Joe. The candidate that sounds better, unfortunately, all too often, we voted for the candidate that sounds better, and we end up with these clowns. Look at judges. Trump's judges have been fantastic. Look at religious liberty, school choice, and abortion. Trump, again, been fantastic. Look at the military. Trump rebuilt the military, fixed the VA, secured big raises for our military. Look at the economy. Trump had our economy rocking prior to COVID. Trump has our economy rebounding and ready to launch now. Look at the Democrats in Congress. They won't put together a $1.8 trillion deal to put a stimulus back into the economy for people because they don't want to do anything prior to the election. Crazy Nancy is going ballistic. Wolf Blitzer was talking to her and telling her, what are you doing here? You got to help the people. She called him a Republican. CNN, she called them Republicans. You don't want Crazy Nancy, Chuck Schumer, and who's ever the puppet master of Joe Biden running this country. Look at the trade deals, all beneficial to the U.S. Look at the immigration policies, hopefully we can come through with Congress with a stronger Republican majority in Congress and fix those immigration problems. People, I don't want to hear, oh, I can't stand Trump. This is about principles, not personalities. On one side, we have American middle class family values. That's on the Trump side. On the other side, we have lunacy. We're talking about a Green New Deal. We're talking about Medicare for all. Remember Obamacare? They said, oh, yeah, we lied to you because we had to pass it. They're doing the same thing here with Medicare for all. They're doing the same thing here with the Green New Deal, with fracking. We lied because we had to pass it. They're lying to you and lying to you and lying to you. They just want power so that they can get into Congress, ram through the far left legislation, and get it passed by a Democrat president who will probably end up being Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is pretty clear that she's wishy-washy and goes anyway, but is clueless. She was in the Democrat campaigns, generated no support. She had no integrity. Look at what her positions were. She had no integrity, and she's back to having no integrity now. She's got no integrity on law and order. She's got no integrity on fracking. Absolutely none. And she's attacked Catholics on the judiciary. Joe Biden plays the I'm a Catholic, but not in practice. And they're certainly against Catholic judges. So please look at the values, look at the policies, not at the personality. Donald Trump needs to be reelected in 2020. This is a very, very big election. There's tremendous importance in this election. We need to continue getting the economy righted after this virus. We also need to get the virus situation righted, and we're on that path. And next week, I'm going to talk about the virus because you've heard a lot of nonsense. I want you to look at the fatality rate for the coronavirus in the states. You're going to notice that it's the blue states that have the high rates. The Democrats all criticized Santorum and Texas and Georgia, Brian Kemp. Those are the states with the low rates. It's the blue states. It's the New York, the New Jersey, the two highest rates in the country because they did such a poor job. The federal government was the support role, and they did it. They produced ventilators, PPEs, and this vaccination in warp speed. So next week, we'll talk about Corona. This week, we finished here on the values. Values, you got to support Trump and the Republicans. And that means the Republicans up and down the ballot. He needs a House and a Senate that are going to support. What the House did during Trump's term has been horrendous. And it's all been based on the fake Russia collusion that we now know was totally funded by Hillary and pushed. The CIA briefed Obama that she was pushing the fake Russia collusion Trump line. She was the one who started that. So we'll talk next week about Corona. Look at the policies. Look at the judges. Look at the abortion, the military, the economy, school choice, religious liberty. It's all in Trump's favor. Peace.